Welcome to Accelerate Your Dental Practice, the show for dental professionals ready to grow smarter, faster, and stronger. Hosted by Michelle Affanato of Affinity Management Consulting and Malika Azargun of Czar Dental Consulting. Each episode delivers practical strategies and expert advice to help you streamline operations, increase profitability, and reduce stress. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Accelerate Your Dental Practice. Shaking things up a little bit today as Malika is unable to join us for this episode. So I was thinking outside the box a little bit, give you guys a taste of something a little different today. So I'd like to introduce my guest, Lauren Zano from 100 West Dental. She is the office manager there. It's one of my favorite, most fun offices. If you haven't seen them on social media, they have the cool logo, the cool swag that they're always doing, not to mention some really incredible things you guys are doing for the community. So welcome to this episode, Lauren.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you having me on. Really excited to chit chat a little bit, as if we don't already chit chat a whole lot.
Oh, I know. So I've been working kind of with the team at 100 West, on and off for the past couple of years in project capacity, right? So
Mhm.
Lauren and I have developed a nice little working relationship here, doing some mentoring for her too, so that, as she's still fairly early in her office management years, she doesn't make all the mistakes that I made. And it took me, 30 years to figure it out.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank God. Thank God you're saving me from that. I still have hair.
So I thought maybe for this episode it would be a little different. The podcast is called Accelerate Your Dental Practice. So we're always looking for ways, but a lot of times we specifically are speaking with dentists or to the dentist, right? And the manager plays such a vital role in the practice, right? So
Yeah.
many doctors, they depend on that position so much. And I know there's some offices out there that they don't have a manager. And I also know that every doctor utilizes their manager in different ways. So I wanted to throw a couple of questions out to you. There's no pressure, right? Be honest, because I feel like these doctors, they love to hear some honesty, and they all know, like, you know, where their
Yeah,
flaws are and where their strengths are.
yeah. And we as office managers graciously just brush them under the rug because we love them.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So, you guys have a really busy practice. I know you guys hit the ground running from day
yes.
one. So, in a practice like that, what systems or habits do you feel make the biggest difference between thriving and drowning? And I'm sure there's some days you feel like you're thriving and some days you feel like you're drowning.
Absolutely. The balance is always changing. Um, really, I mean, to be honest, the systems are always changing. And as we've gotten bigger and more patients, we've had to reflect a lot on revamping those systems. So the things that used to work really well, at this point, we're at 5 years, have had to change quite a bit. And I think really now what I'm seeing is that when we have decision making, we really have to allow for it to kind of run its course to see if it's actually going to work. I think before we would make a decision really quickly. And then the first time that something would go wrong with it, we're like, okay, scratch that. And we wouldn't really allow it to kind of permeate and really let the team understand fully how it makes sense. So I think right now one of the parts of making all these systems and protocols definitely needs to be allowing it to have the time to work and mentally when we're making those decisions saying okay if how does this look in 6 months, does this clear up our problem in 12 months? And I think you and I have talked about that with some of our mentorship, like fixing things. It can't just be tomorrow that's what we're doing. So
Right.
that would be one of them. I'd say another one that we've realized is that we've blown off a lot of our meetings, that intentional meeting time, and I feel like that's why there's always these lingering questions, is when you're not really giving intentional thought process or having these discussions that like weed out those little questions. If those conversations are not happening on a consistent basis, whether it be myself and the doctor, all of the doctors aligned, department alignment, or just leads alignment, I think if you're blowing those off, you're missing opportunities to really see the full picture of problems in the office, or we'll call them challenges,
Mhm.
because problems give a negative connotation, and we're all going through those same issues. So intentional time, and then one of our biggest things is not creating clear timelines.
Mhm.
So we have this like, great plan. We're gonna get it done. But then I think resentment builds because you're like, oh, I was expecting this to be going already. And never once did we really break down when we're expecting certain things to happen. And I know from an office manager perspective, our doctors are full of these wonderful ideas, but they don't necessarily have all the gap filling information, and we do. I mean, most of us kind of come from like the backgrounds of insurance coordination or patient coordinators, so you kind of understand that there's a couple of different things that need to happen before that big idea is really popping off. So
Yeah.
um, I'd say clear timelines and understanding big picture is another huge part of like how we create these systems that actually work. Because if I were to granulize systems in general, like, I mean, what works for one office doesn't work for another,
Right.
and what works for one dentist doesn't work for
Ex-
another with the same practice. So.
Exactly. And I've been through that in my career. It's one of the reasons I love working with dentists because every doctor I work with likes to do things different. Sure, like we all have to schedule appointments and bill insurance and collect co-payments and have a flow to it, but everybody does it. It's slightly different. And
Mhm.
as you were saying, the doctors have these great ideas, and like you don't always set the timelines. Doctors are the visionary. They know what they want for this practice, but many times they have no idea how to implement it. They just come back from a course
Mhm.
and they're like, oh, "I got this great idea. We're going to
Yes.
start doing this," right? So you have to lean on the manager and have them be the implementer of these things. So it is like just a collaboration in that respect.
Definitely, definitely. And we don't want to be the no person. I think that the pressure lies in that that they have these beautiful goals for the practice, and you were hired to be the facilitator of those. So you definitely don't want to be like, well, let's take a step back, or let's pump the brakes on this, because I feel like you start to deflate them.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, we don't want to be deflated when we're kind of at that finish line and it's maybe less than what they were envisioning. So,
Yeah. So I know like 100 West is not the only place you've worked in your dental career. So and I have seen this too, but I'm curious to hear from you. Like, what are three things that like dentists in general will do that actually like make your job harder?
this is, yeah, we're gonna have to edit out some things probably for this. So, um, well, I you brought one up, jumping on new trends
Yeah.
without really researching like what that's going to take. That, like you said, they come home from these CE courses just full of steam, and I really think that implementing them in due time. And I realize that a lot of these business risks are there's really never a good time. It's like becoming a parent. Like, is there really a good time to start, all the things that come with it? But I think that really is hard when you're maybe in the middle of something else that they brought home already. And that kind of is something I've realized with almost every practice I've been in, is that there's there's just this momentum that's like right now, and
Yep.
you're not really sure what to prioritize. So there's not a lot of discussions that happen to get to that point. Some doctors are really good about it, and some, I think, are just like, well, they told us, this shouldn't take any time at all to switch from Eagle Soft to Open Dental. And you're like, who are they? Because I'm going to call them.
Exactly.
And I think they mean well. Obviously, everything that the doctors do mean well, especially if you're a very close team, especially if you're close as an office manager with them. I know that they're not trying to make our days more difficult. They want more out of their dream, right? That's what we're doing, is facilitating their dream. That's why they put in the work to go to school. But I feel like they are guilty of shooting themselves in the foot. Another thing that they do, and I've been a treatment coordinator, insurance specialist, they let patients dictate treatment. They let patients guilt them into writing things off. And I like, we know the deeper parts sometimes of the relationships with these particular patients, and not to say that they're wrong or right, but I think you've got patients that maybe don't show up for their appointments all the time, but 4 years later, a filling falls out and they're angry.
And then they bend over
And it's
backwards
our
to get them
fault.
in after hours. And I'm not
Yes.
going to charge you. Like, one of the reasons I love working with dentists, right, is like they have the biggest, kindest hearts. They want to help everyone.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel as a consultant, or even when I was an office manager, is like you almost have to protect them from
Yes.
that.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's where it, like, good cop, bad cop, right?
Yeah.
And what's funny is, like, Pryor will call himself, that's our doctor, Dr. Pryor. He will call himself bad cop and I'm good cop. But then my roles reverse with Dr. Hartman, because Dr. Hartman is just so, like, go with the flow. We call him mom, like golden retriever energy. And he's just so willing to give, even at his own detriment. And not to say Dr. Pryor doesn't give
Sure.
freely. He gives a whole lot, but he has a little more discernment on, like, hey, this is not something that, like, we as a business have to shoulder. Whereas Dr. Hartman is just like, man, they're making me feel really bad. So you do, there's such a level of protection that you want for the organization, and you believe in their skill set and that they deserve to make that production without having to compromise. And you want the patients to also take the accountability and put it where it's due. So
Sure.
that is something that does make my job harder sometimes, because I have to go right in and say, no.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing today.
So
And the last thing with doctors is just spur of the moment decision making. Sometimes you decide on something as, like, a leadership team, and then maybe you have one employee that just doesn't like that, and they present their case, and then all of a sudden, the other 15 people that were totally okay with that guideline, now it's not happening. And those things, again, everything comes from a good heart
Yeah.
and wanting to make their team happy, but that does, as an office manager, that does get tough.
So one of the things that I used to see as an office manager, and I managed like 3 or 4 different offices over my career as a manager. Something that would frustrate me a lot is you'd have a meeting with the doctor, and maybe you were talking about an employee, and you were talking about this employee maybe not performing, or the attendance wasn't great, and you guys, as the manager, you're the one who has to handle those situations, but you would sit there and talk about it and agree upon, like, this is how we're going to handle it. You go out and you have the conversation with the employee, right? And then they're not happy that you're reprimanding them. They cry to the doctor, and the doctor doesn't back you up in that situation. That used to drive me insane, because in your head, you're like, I swear we were just on the same page about this. Like,
Yeah.
what happened in the moment?
Yeah, I think the confrontation then becomes shouldered on you. And sometimes you wouldn't even know these situations are happening,
Yeah.
especially when it's like a clinical team member and you're like, I don't even exist back there.
Right.
I have no idea if they're not setting your rooms up right. But then they come to you with some of these issues. And then once you're having that conversation, they act like they haven't heard that before. Like, I have no idea, where's she getting this? Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's frustrating. That is.
Yeah, we've been better about it. And Dr. Pryor does get a lot of really good input his own mastermind groups about how to take accountability on that, and he's really coached me quite a bit. And I am definitely of the good girl era, where you don't want to ruffle feathers with
Yeah.
females. You
Yeah.
could pay for that for the rest of your life.
We hold
um
grudges.
yes, yeah, over somewhat small things. And that's a tough place to be as an office manager, because you don't want to be the office manager that they hear you coming and they're scattering. So but when your doctor does back you, gosh, it makes your life so much easier, because they're like, you're actually dealing with the nice one.
Yeah.
So they almost feel relieved that you're the one doing the reprimand. So it is, it's important, and you're so right that when a doctor goes against you, I mean, what tone is that setting
Right.
to get order within their own practice?
Right. Right. So when I was a dental assistant, something that would I felt would like drive me crazy and throw off our entire day, right? Is I would love it when the doctor would come in the morning or even at lunch and be like, hey, so and so called me on my cell phone and I just told them to come in at 3 o'clock and they didn't look at the schedule and they didn't look at anything else. And now I'm looking at like, I've got, all of this other stuff to do on top of it. We've already got a patient scheduled at 3 o'clock. Like, I'm looking at like we don't really have another room to throw this person into at the time. Like, would have been great if you had like asked me. I might have found a better time for you. Like that would throw off my whole day, right? And is there anything that like you go through that like when the doctor does something, you're just like, yeah, this is gonna make this whole day.
I mean, that similar scenario happens during the lunch break quite a bit here, and the pressure rises almost immediately. I can see a feverish look in all of my dental assistants' eyes when that happens. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty common one. I would also say, sometimes for myself, I will have meetings scheduled with people I have no idea who they are. They're at my front desk, like asking to speak to me directly. And I go out there with the most bewildered look on my face, like, what are we talking about? And you just have to go from like moment to moment with that.
Yeah.
So I would say very similar, just surprise things. And again, they mean well, or they truly
Yeah.
forgot to. But man, having to walk that back with your dental assistants who haven't eaten or gone to the restroom like for
Yeah.
hours, like
It's rough.
they're ready to grab me by the throat. Yeah.
um So I know I do this in my life, working with my clients every day, every week. Like I swear there's certain things that I must repeat 100 times. And for me, at least, like I'm repeating it to different clients. But I feel like the same scenarios are happening office, day in and day out. Is there anything that you catch yourself kind of being like, oh my God, I must have said this 100 times if I said it once today?
Yes, yes. I feel that I've done the wrong thing. I've made myself a part of everyone's day. So now I'm trying to come back from that. I get a lot of questions, and I think maybe it's that I haven't fully instilled my confidence in their decision making yet. So I'll get questions, and my common statement is, "What do the notes say?" I feel like in a frantic moment, some of my team members will feel that the answer needs to come right now, and they don't do the research yet. So I do feel like I'm like, go back and look at this, and this. And then you give me your idea on what you think we should do, and I'll coach you through that. But I do. What do the notes say? What do the
Yeah.
notes say? All day long. What's the
My
name's name?
my like thing that I must have said daily, at least twice a day, they'd come to me, my computer's not working.
Oh,
And then like immediately I would be like, did you turn it like close everything down and restart it? Because if you didn't do that first, like I don't want to help you. Like at least
right.
take some initiative to
Oh,
like
yes.
use your like common sense of like, okay, come to me and say, hey Michelle, my computer's not working. I restarted it. I checked the wires. I did this. Okay, now we can troubleshoot together. But when you come to
Hmm.
me and are just like, my computer's not working, what do you want me to do? with
It's our
that.
fault. That's our fault. We have become that. We are IT. We are everything.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and there is such a pure intention behind what we do. And a lot of our experience, I think, has just you want to be that's who we are. We're
Right.
helpers. We were probably teacher's pet, like, I'll put stickers on stuff in third grade.
Yep.
So I know I was.
Me too.
So I think it's just within our nature to be helpful, but what do they say? Short-term solutions create long-term problems.
Yeah.
And that's where our exhaustion, I think, comes from is the questions all day. I mean, you're a mother, I'm a mother. I'm sure many of your listeners for the podcast are parents. We go home to that second job with lots and lots of questions, and so you get tapped out on kind of diverting your brain to answer and fix and do all these things, and I mean, resentment sometimes does grow with like, hey, did you even try to
Yeah.
like do this on your own? I always feel like I don't want to talk down to someone, but
No.
if our internet goes out or something, um, I always think like, I didn't get a degree in IT, and what would you do at home if
Yeah.
your
Right.
internet was out? Like,
Right.
so those types of things, like, they go through my brain. But again, I do have to remember that I have positioned myself as Miss Fix It.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what do you think is something that you do in the office that kind of goes unnoticed or maybe even like underappreciated? Just not just by the doctors, but by the team in general.
you want me to get emotional here?
Oh, no, no, no crying. No crying on the podcast.
Oh, no, I won't cry. And I think this is also, as an office manager, a lot of us are caretakers. And I think you've told me even before, it's a very lonely place. I think that we are so willing to stretch ourselves to lead and guide because we take it so seriously. Um, I would say that I read the room, the energy of the room. I pay attention to just changes in work ethic or behavior or even just the way that they're speaking. And I try not to interject super, deeply on stuff, but sometimes it's important to remember that, like, this is a large part of our lives being at work. And so sometimes you can tap in just even gently and get the whole story from them of what's going on. And I know other groups of leaders would say, that's you don't need to get too in deep because it can, change the way that you're making decisions. But for me, it's really important to engage with every single one of my team members. And sometimes I wish someone would text me and ask me how they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's really important to feel supported and safe within your work environment. And I firmly believe that each one of us has talents that the other one, may not possess. So we all work towards the same goals, and each one of us brings something to the table. So if you don't nurture each one of those individuals and care about their lives outside of here too, even to some extent, um, it definitely affects all of you at some point. If someone's having a really hard week, death in the family or struggles with finances and stuff, it plays a role in the practice. And if you're an office manager that just sees it as like you need to look forward and let it go, um, it's unrealistic in my opinion. And again, other people may have a different viewpoint on that, but I do think as humans, we're here to accelerate their growth, but also care about the individuals that are giving your practice so much. So I would say what's unnoticed for me is that, like, I try to do that for we're now at 15, 16 people.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would like to ask in return. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
I
important.
I know it's hard. It's hard, and I feel that way at home sometimes too, right? Like I'm the one who's always taking care of this and that, and I sometimes I just want people to be like, "Hey, like, how you doing? Like, I know it's been a busy week for you at work, and you've had like
Mhm.
the heat went out or like you had to do this and that and like but no, right? They just always expect like it'll be there, Michelle, be there to take care of all of this for me. Like it's good.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
we have each other, right? Like we have little
Hmm.
groups and other office managers or mentorships and things like that for those are people that are like they've got you.
Oh yeah, we extend so much, and that's part of our superpower, right? Is
Yeah.
that we can be in different domains all at one time, and we're still rocking and rolling. But it's like we're not just robots.
No, no.
So yeah, we still have those feelings too. So yeah, that I would say that's what goes unnoticed for us. And I think when it is acknowledged though, and I'm sure you've had doctors just really wow you with the acknowledgement, and that's something that has kept me in the game. I mean, as well as I do, we had a really rough year with this build out, and it extended and extended and created new issues every month. And being a new office manager, it's
Yeah.
the the weight of that, because there is a level of, like, can I handle this? This is a
Mhm.
new challenge that I want to overcome. I think I can, but when you're acknowledged for putting in the extra effort, man, it really
Right.
just recharges your batteries.
So, one of the things that I know is always an issue, right? I just feel like people in general, or most people in general, are not great communicators. Like we assume people are just reading our minds and know exactly what we want from them, or we come across as too blunt, or we tiptoe around it too much. Um, what is like? I know that you and I've talked, and I love Dr. Pryor, but I know like sometimes there's issues with communication with everybody, right? So
Hmm.
what is something that you could say to dentists that like it is kind of a common theme that not just communicating with their manager, but sometimes in communicating with the team in general that we wish like could be a little bit better?
Yeah. Well, again, only from my experience, I would say that my number one thing that Dr. Pryor and I are working on now is consolidating the scattered thoughts and conversations. As we know, you're having them in a hallway, in a pass by, in a text message as you guys are leaving the office for after a long day. And I think, that is weight, right? It's brain space for both of you, that like, I just got to say it right now. And it's just kind of like a shotgun blast on a wall. And so I feel like one thing that doctors could do is to try to be intentional and consolidate their thoughts into something, a listed email. We're trying Google Workspace right
Okay.
now. And we're heavily invested in like learning AI for everything. So it has been nice,
Yeah.
but um that would be, for me, my number one, because again, my goal is to meet all of the expectations they need. I know what my role is, and that's in my practice, to support him as he grows this business. And no one person can do it, because I'm starting to get to a point of capacity where I'm like, I might have to pass off more of my tasks to be able to
Yeah.
focus on the business aspect. So that, um priorities, right? We think about, like, this is a priority today, but somehow in our days, the priority shuffles like
Yeah.
24/7. And I think that, it all feels important. So how can you dedicate 100% of your brain power if the priority changes by the hour, even by the half hour?
Mhm.
So I think with those intentional meetings, having priorities really laid out of like what truly matters most right now. Like, are you okay if, we're trying to onboard a third doctor here right now? So like, do we need to change the paperwork this month, or should we just really focus on her at
Sure.
this moment?
Right.
um that really plays a role in communication, I think, as like, you're just trying and trying and trying, your wheels are spinning, and you're like, okay, what is today's priority?
Yeah.
So communicating, identifying and communicating that is important. We talked about timelines, and then communicating the big picture, especially for your leaders. I don't need a lot of the middle parts, as long as, for me, I know the end result that
Sure.
they're looking for. And sometimes, like, you could be presented with a change in hygiene department, change in assisting, we're getting a mill or this or that, but you're kind of like, wow, we're spending a lot right now,
Right.
and you're not really seeing the big picture of where this is all going. And I think a lot of us can walk side by side with our doctors if that's shared with us. And I do feel like sometimes the dentists keep that. And I don't know if that's maybe because they're afraid to speak it out loud of like
Yeah.
how big they want to be, because if it's out loud, it's out there. If you fall short somewhere, is there feelings internally? I don't know that, but I'm only thinking from my experience, like the more clarity I have on their big picture goals, the better I can do to get them there. The more I understand like where we're going, every day makes sense to me. Every purchase, every,
Yeah.
crucial conversation with a team member makes sense if I'm like, this is up here. We're shooting for the moon here. So
Yeah.
that would be my list.
I love it. I love it. So we pulled the curtain back a little bit and we got some insight from an office manager um who I think like she's already a rock star, but like we're scratching the surface on what on
Aw,
what she could do.
many
Um,
years to come.
but I think like you're in a good place. Like I am like excited to continue to hear about like adding the new doctor and the expansion and all of the things that you guys are doing, and also how you are taking it upon yourself to learn from anyone and everyone that you can, right? Because I do know that there's a lot of managers out there. And I mean, I've been in dentistry for 35 years. Like, I started when I was, just out of the womb, right?
Yeah,
I'm not
basically,
old.
yeah.
I'm not
I was
old.
actually 5 when I started.
But I mean, there's a lot of managers out there that are like, I've been doing this for 20 years. There's nothing new you can teach me. And those managers there, they hurt my heart because I learn something new every day. I have mentors that I still reach out to constantly to help me. And I feel like, I want dentists to understand like if your manager isn't seeking ways to help you and improve your practice, like that is something that you need to engage with them and
Oh,
talk
yeah.
with them about that.
You are so correct. And, we have had this relationship since I started here as the only front office. And
Yeah.
essentially at that time, it was just front office. There
Yep.
was not management as a part of that, but you knew that my goals were this. I'd been in dentistry. I mean, now we're tickling 17 years in some fashion. I think that if I would not have had all the components of investment that Dr. Pryor has given me of mentors, I would be fraudulent right now. And I'm not, this just from my personal experience, I would be piecing together front office tasks and calling that management. And what I've learned with all of this is the bigger part of that pushes you in a direction that you always have to continue learning. There are so many things that there's just no way that you're going to be able to pick them up without somebody explaining to you, this is why this is happening. There's been, and maybe people will laugh, but even understanding KPIs for me, it reminds me of like insurance claims, right? Like you kind of have to learn how you mess it up or what it looks like when it's ugly in order
Yep.
to really get what that means and how you fix it. And without mentors, those would have been just like numbers on a page for me. I would have, I would not have been able to decipher like how that is a change in behavior, the way we're presenting, or even verbiage. Like, I
Mm.
mean, it's it's so important, I think, to get your office managers multiple places to develop, because I don't think that we would even be where we're at. I think I would have quit when it got hard without being able to pick up the phone and call my mentors. and there's still times where I'm like, I don't know the right answer to this particular HR situation.
Mhm.
I mean, I've definitely called you with some
Yeah.
doozies.
Yeah.
And you can't predict how humans are going to behave. I
Right.
mean, we could crack open any of these like management operations. I have my book club, much like you, in the
Yeah.
back here. And they're very great guidelines, but you get someone in front of you and you find yourself going, okay, how do we handle this one?
Right.
And only that information comes from experience from people that have been doing it a long time. If you don't have the place to bounce those things off of, you might only come from your biased mindset and what you've gotten to so far. And I feel like the expansiveness of having seasoned leadership and mentorship, gosh, it forces you to really like remove all the stuff you knew before and say, let me try it this way.
Sure.
And then when it works, you're like, if it was that easy every
Yeah.
time.
If only. Yeah.
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 But it's so, I mean, I just feel so grateful that I've been invested in time and time again, because I feel like I'm different as a person. Um and that's a difference in the way I carry myself in the world outside of the practice. I'm not shying away from things that are hard. I feel very, very emboldened to do bigger stuff. And I feel like there's always a way for me to develop here too. Dr. Pryor doesn't limit me on, you're just going to be my office manager. That's it. He's
Yeah.
kind of like, you complete these tasks for me right now, but like we don't even know where we're going yet. Like we're going to explode. And
Yeah.
that, like, just to have somebody that motivating for you to say like you can explode, like you are not trapped in this space, but like who could you be for me next? Like who do you want to develop? There's just an allowance for me to just say like, this is good for me, this I no longer want to do anymore.
Yeah.
and and I think that that's how you develop people that truly are invested in your organization and your dream, is to allow them to have their own dreams and develop like the parts of them that you already like as an office manager. If they're dependable, like, then you're starting to have this level of trust that like now they're taking something off your plate that you absolutely 100% know that they've got it. Like you're
Yeah.
developing that confidence to help you in ways you're not even thinking about right now. The stress is relieved. And I don't know, I gosh, mentorship, I could just preach about it all day long, because I know that I don't feel like I would be here, not only in this practice, but I even in dentistry, if I would have gone to another practice that said, this is where you cap out. You're gonna do this for the rest of your life. I just couldn't imagine
Right.
that for me.
Yeah, and that's how I was. I was so fortunate in my career as an office manager. So I'm happy to encourage and, mentor others along to get there too. So thank you so much for joining me today, Lauren. This was
Yeah,
exciting. And
thank
if
you.
if Malika ever can't join us again, I might hit you up to be a co-host with me.
Hey, I would be down. I love it. I love it.
And yeah, I don't know. Dr. Pryor might get jealous. We might have to have him on an episode.
I think he would really like that. I feel like he has a lot to say to the doctors too.
Yes,
So, I
he
mean,
definitely does.
put him on camera. He's got a face for camera.
Well, thank you. We'll tune in next time. Malika should be back and we'll continue to give you tips and tricks to help accelerate your practice. Take
Thanks,
care.
Michelle. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Accelerate Your Dental Practice. To learn more about your hosts and explore consulting services tailored to your practice, visit affinitymanagement.co for Michelle Affato and zardentalconsulting.com for Malika Azargun. Be sure to follow, rate, and share the podcast. And join us next time for more tools, tips, and strategies to help you accelerate your dental practice.